we all become historians, quoting Malcolm X and quoting Garvey. But who actually wants to make a sacrifice to pick up the mantle and do the work? I don't want to hear your hyperbole about Dr. Claude Anderson, Malcolm X, or Marcus Garvey.
Okay.
Dr. Claude Anderson is old, and you didn't do it. You didn't back what he said. Otherwise, it would look like this. So I said, do you know what?
But Dr. Claude Anderson mentioned that from the beginning of the civil rights movement.
He's been saying the same thing for 40 years.
That's right.
So I said, look, don't talk about the concept. Build the house. Build the house that it looks like.
Start from somewhere.
Digitally, you can just onboard staff. So you can go on the website right now and fill out an expression of interest to join the political party. You can fill out an expression of interest. So what you've just brought up is the memberships. So we're going live on July 6th with the memberships. And even now when we're coming down to the monies, we don't trust each other. So I made a decision to be out campaigning for a full year. I didn't ask anybody for any money. I haven't asked anybody to do anything they don't want to do. So when we go live as an organization, individuals is £5 a month, which comes to £60 a year. We might have an option to take £50 upfront, which is for the whole year. For the organizations, is £15. So if you think about a grassroots organization like a rites of passage organization, it's £15 a month. But then they might say, well, we have limited resources. What are you doing for us? The whole point of ADPAC is to go and get that 50 grand grant for them so that they can then build out in their capacity building and robustness. We don't want Black Child Agenda or African Child Agenda, I should say now with Sherilyn Garner, or Taking Positive Steps, Claudine, to advocate for our children as individuals. We want to go and get you 100 grand so that you can now train those counselors to go into the school spaces that we can capacity build what we're doing at scale, what we're doing, and do that nationally. Now,
I was going to ask that question. Sorry, Dean.
Please, go ahead.
So I was going to ask, because one of the things is, because that's of real interest, but it's about how is that disseminated and cascaded so that we can build capacity. So you've kind of answered that question, but I think some of the stuff is also about the intimacy in getting people. So like a lot of the trends that are happening now, where we're doing things on a regular basis to create awareness for us as the elders that we've now become, so that we can disseminate to ours. Because if we, like you were saying, if you just sit and talk about it, then where's the action? Because the whole thing about the whole thing about action and power is about being proactive around that. So how do we then become catalysts to enable that grand dissemination so that more people can be a part of the process?
But do you know the thing? I couldn't have done this at any other time of my life, because if I was 28, I couldn't pick up the phone to elders in their 60s, 70s for advice. They wouldn't listen to me.
No.
It just happens that I'm right in between. I'm 46. So I can speak to elders, I can speak to my peers, and I can speak to the youth. I'm blessed to be right in the middle, which is that sweet spot where I can now create that close that intergenerational gap. Not by myself, because this is the same conversation I'm having with Gwynton Slowly. It's the same conversation I was having with Nana Ajiman from Access UK. It's the same conversation I would have with Brother Andrew from WYLA. It's the same conversation I'd have with Brother Pablo from Origin HQ. So when you understand that you have the ability to affect closing the intergenerational gap, and it came to me on a project which failed. Our biggest lessons, me, golden boy, everywhere I go, I can call something, it's a win. It's a win. So somebody phones me and they say, I got a couple of grand for an organization to deliver a meeting. No, it's not a public meeting, it's an industry meeting. So I say, no problem. I call 8, he says, but you've got to deliver it in 2 days and give me the report, the evaluation, because it's tax money, April season. So I call 80 people, I get 80 youth engagement practitioners in one room so that we're talking about most effective practice. So when you see that schools to industry pipeline, all those delivery partners there were in that room. So I just got used to everything I touch, boom, it's effective, gold, gold, gold. And then I came up on a project which we got funding for to deliver in Haringey. And it was a leadership program that I took a lot of time to design, called the Managed Leadership Program, which is leadership for young men from 16 to 25. Now, I had machinations of making them an alumni, so they become their own society of sorts, with all of the civic and entrepreneurial training that we've given them. But for love nor money, could I find these 20 young men in Haringey? Wow. I jumped into the grassroots people of Haringey, who I knew I had relationships with. Now, these are youth organizations. Now, I'm not talking about the young men who would be potentially susceptible to dealing drugs or street violence. I'm talking about young men that don't really come out of their yard. They go to school, college, work, and come home. And I realized there's a huge intergenerational gap. Massive. And I was depressed off the back of that project failing for about 5 weeks. And I said, you know what? You're not who you think you are. We're not where you think we are. We are nowhere. So if you think about us being in the Matrix, when you take the USB out of your neck back and you realize that you're naked and your body is weak and that the world doesn't look like you thought it looked, let's go. Now we start to build the ships. Now we start to fight the machine. But in order to fight the machine, you must build your own machine. And I realized then, get out of your lazy stupor. This is where we are. We just unplugged from the Matrix. You can't talk about living on zombie protocols, but not have your own effective machine. And although I had been working on ADPAC for 6 months previous to having Zooms with delivery partners here and internationally, it didn't look like this machine. And I said, today we start to build the machine. You're going to build the CIC. After you've built the CIC, we're going to build the sovereign trust so that we can work outside of UK legislation as sovereign African Caribbeans. So we can deliver our own educational curriculum and nobody can question it. So we can house our own media and everything else and nobody can question it. The same for our political party. It can have affiliation with the African Union and nobody can question it. Just like nobody can question US Jews or Israelis because the machine they've built is too powerful. Now, if UK Ashkenazi Jews are 246,000 here and we are 3 million. Power isn't numeric. Power is organizational. So then I start talking to the project managers, effective people like Aston, and to build out what I know we need is a project management tool, a digital project management tool that we can all plug into from our phones and be operational. Well, now let's go. But then somebody's got to pay for it, don't they? So I said, when we pay attention. So let's create a membership. I mean, people can donate today. You could go to adpac.net/donate. But when we are members, it's a frequent income that we know we can now understand what it's going to be next month. So we want to build ADPAC into 100,000 membership so that we can say we have a $500,000 budget every month for all of our directors and our people in operations and to oversee our chapters. So if you think about going to your Citizens Advice Bureau, you would go to your ADPAC chapter.
Okay.
So any problem that you have where you're going to a CAB and you're saying, oh, they're not dealing with it as I would like. Well, now you're going to a chapter where everybody looks like you and has your best interests at heart. And they coordinate all of the experts on the ground. So when they send you to somebody, they're not sending you to English people. They're sending you to African Caribbean organizations in your power. Very different operation. So that's what London would look like. Very, very different. And then Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Wolverhampton, and apparently now Ireland in any of those cities like Cork, Dublin, and whatever the other city was.